Hey, what is going on, everybody? James here with Heavyweight Politics, and you know what? It sounds like someone at NPR is just a little bit upset that their articles just don't seem to be getting as many clicks as some of the conservative articles are out there, and decided what better way to vent than to do just nothing but basically an attack piece on probably the most milquetoast of milquetoast conservatives, right? One of the most, the white bread of white bread, Ben Shapiro. Now, don't get me wrong. I like Ben. I like the Daily Wire. I even got one of their tumblers, right? Like, I do enjoy the Daily Wire. Admittedly, someone signed me up as a gift. Hey, cool. I'm not sure if I'll sign up by myself, but, I do enjoy their content. I do think they're fun to listen to, especially on their backstage stuff. But let's be honest. They're the most white bread of white bread conservatives, right? There's nothing really controversial about their opinion. No, there's just nothing controversial about their opinions. They take very mainstream conservative valued opinions on most things. Nothing's really shocking. Nothing's really, off the wall. Nothing's really on the fringes of any way, shape, or form. Yet, of course, because they're successful and NPR and other leftist outlets have been struggling, what are they going to do? They're going to go out of their way to, of course, attack them because they can't let conservatives win at anything, period. If conservatives are winning at something, it means something is going wrong to them. And not going wrong with what they're doing, mind you. It's never their fault. It's never NPR's fault. It's never CNN's fault. Never MSNBC's fault. It always has to be some exploit the conservatives must be doing because how else could they be winning? So NPR wrote this article, Outrage is a business model. How Ben Shapiro is using Facebook to build an empire. Of course, they gotta use that kind of language. They're just building an empire. Outrage as a business model. I wonder where they would have got that idea. Because it's not like NPR or MSNBC or NBC or CNN or really any news outlet ever uses outrage. I mean, I'm sure they're just, always reporting directly on the facts, never speculating one bit, one way or another. The reality is outrage has always been part of the business model of news, right? You're trying to reach as many people as possible, and the facts are people do share stuff they're typically outraged over, more so than things that bring a smile to their face, right? It kind of depends. The only time they'll ever just share something that's actually good, it's when they can kind of rub it in someone else's face, if you notice. And that goes for both the left and the right, right? When Trump did something great, people would share it so they could go, hey, F you guys, Trump's doing awesome. Look at this, look at this, look at this. And it was still kind of made as an F you, right? And the same thing happens to the left all the time. The difference is that the right kind of embrace the, environment that is the internet and how the internet works, and Daily Wire has done it successfully, right? They have created a media empire that is now expanding more so than almost any conservative outlet has. There was a time when everyone thought kind of the Blaze was going to be the big one, and the Blaze is still big, do not get me wrong. Like, the Blaze is still pretty massive, but they don't really have as many shows as they once did, and people don't really talk about them now as much as they talk about Daily Wire. And the left cannot stand it. The left hates the Daily Wire. I think there's a couple reasons why the left really hates the Daily Wire. First off is this graph right here, right? So the ones in blue down here are the mainstream media, right? The New York Times, CNN, NBC, I think Fox News is mixed in there as well. And then the ones in orange is the non-mainstream, right? And also conservative, because they're not going to give you the stats on what stuff like the Young Turks do, because Young Turks would also probably be well above, a lot of the mainstream media as well, to be perfectly honest. But above it, place it at Western Journal. The Blaze still, like I said, still does very well. But you got a big gap to reach before you ever hit the Daily Wire. So the leftists always have this problem where if they're not winning, they assume it's nothing they're doing that's wrong, right? There's nothing that CNN is doing nothing wrong. MSNBC is doing nothing wrong. The mainstream media has done nothing wrong. The reason why people are not watching as much is because people like the Daily Wire and the Blaze, people who watch that stuff have been, been sharing this stuff out, and those people lie to the people. And when that happens, they start having this distrust of the mainstream media. At least that's what's happening in their mind. That's what they believe. That's what the left typically thinks, is that the reason why people aren't watching the mainstream media is because they've been lied to by people who are outside the mainstream media. They never once come up with this idea of, and no once in this entire article do they ever mention, maybe the Daily Wire is just a better business. Maybe the Daily Wire is just really good at their job. Not once does that ever enter into the equation here. They just sit there and say, well, they're just, feeding off of other people's work and they're just repackaging it and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Like, that doesn't happen in mainstream media all the damn time, right? We see it happen all the time. We see it happen where everyone's repeating the exact same talking points verbatim on CNN, MSNBC, NBC, Fox News. They're all using the same exact talking points, even using the same exact words to describe what's happening. It's almost like they're all working for one entity. Now, I'm not claiming they are. I'm just saying is they have their own little in groups and they share around what they're reporting on. And of course, what do? They repackage it for their audiences. It's kind of what happens, right? It's kind of how it works. When's the last time we've seen any real original reporting of most of these people? Most of the individual reporting that's taking place on the ground and then being sold to these bigger outlets, right? They're being sold to them. Very rarely are they being on the ground anymore. Now they're basically hiring people who are on Twitter who are sharing that information. So the mainstream media does the exact same thing. But it never enters into their mind that they're the problem. That maybe their lies over the past 4 years about Trump, maybe all their lies they've told, all the hypocritical moments of saying, of them saying, well, they're not going to trust Trump's vaccine, but all of a sudden saying, well, why doesn't anyone ever trust the vaccine? Well, I wonder why. Maybe because you spoke badly about it for a whole year, right? Maybe you are part of this problem. All right, I was in New York a few months ago and I asked some people around there if they were getting it or not getting it, and a lot of people who said they weren't getting it in New York was because they said they didn't trust Trump, which is exactly what Kamala Harris and Joe Biden all said, right? Kamala Harris said she wouldn't get it because she didn't trust Trump. If conservatives are winning, it means they're exploiting something according to the left. Every single time. They're exploiting either the outrage of people, they're using misinformation, or they're abusing the algorithms. It's never just they're doing a better job. When Trump won the election, what'd they say? Oh, well, he exploited Facebook's algorithms and used it, unfairly against Hillary and stole the election, because they said stole the election. So back then, you could actually say someone stole the election, right? Now we can't at all mention anything like that whatsoever. But they said Trump stole the election and, he exploited Facebook to win. Yet when Obama won his election, and used Facebook heavily, they cheered him saying, oh, look how great it is. This president is using the modern technology. He's really, attracting youthful voters by going on stuff like social media and being very engaging and understanding how to properly use social media to his advantage. Congratulations, Obama. But what the left doesn't realize, and what this article actually really shows, is that, in a way, mainstream media isn't mainstream anymore. The majority of people do not get their news from the mainstream media. Why are they still considered mainstream, right? They're no longer the mainstream media. PewDiePie is more mainstream than CNN is at this point. More people watch his crap than anyone else, or than almost anyone else out there, right? More people watch stuff from the Daily Wire than they do from just CNN. Now, of course, when you start combining all the mainstream outlets together, yeah, they'll overpower. But if you took one segment from MSNBC and one Ben Shapiro episode, which one do you think is probably going to get more views on most days? I'm going to warrant they're either very close or Ben Shapiro. Now, I don't have the numbers on that to prove, but that's my own thought, because I see it typically when I'm going over on YouTube. I see at least the clips from people like CNN and see how low those view counts really are compared to places like the Daily Wire. When I'm doing something like, hey, I'm on here, I'm going to listen to Michael Knowles. He probably gets more views than many segments do on CNN. And that's just it. Once we start showing the mainstream media for what it really is, which is a dying form of media, right? It's not the mainstream. It is on its deathbed, right? It is on the way out. And we can see this with the graph that NPR has provided us. The Daily Wire is so far above any of these individual outlets, which again makes you wonder who is the mainstream after all. In a few more years, there will be no CNN, there will be no MSNBC. They're bleeding people left and right. No one's watching cable anymore. So when it comes to people in my generation, many of us don't even have cable anymore. And no one's watching their crap when it comes to it being on no one's watching when it comes to being on YouTube or whether it's their Twitter or whether it's, on Facebook. No one's watching these people because they've realized how fake they are. Even people on the left have started watching other people who are, again, on YouTube or on Facebook now, who are only on those outlets compared to being on mainstream cable. The mainstream is no longer mainstream. People do not get their news from these organizations anymore. So, congratulations, Ben. Apparently, the mainstream media is still absolutely terrified of you and the Daily Wire. So please keep doing what you're doing. Create some more leftist tiers out there so I can keep making strange videos like this. And if you have enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a like, subscribe to a channel. It really does help. And comment below as to what you think. How much longer till these mainstream outlets die? How much longer will it take for these mainstream outlets to no longer even be in the conversation in the first place? Let us know below, and we'll see you again real soon.